right, how are you today? Welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Early voting has started and we will discuss some emerging trends. We'll also tell you about Shirley Ralph's major honor in Jamaica. And don't miss how a black tech founder is transforming haircuts worldwide. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte, and here are some of the most compelling black stories that reflect our news, our views, and our truth in our voice. Brittney Griner celebrated her 32nd birthday yesterday from a Russian prison as her family, the WNBA, and supporters continue to campaign for her freedom. Earlier this month, former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson told CNN that he's, quote, cautiously optimistic that Griner will be released by the end of the year. Now, Richardson has met privately with senior Russian officials. The athletic community doesn't want us to forget at the start of the Golden State Warriors season opener. You might have seen this last night.
I did.
We saw superstar Steph Curry had this to say about Griner.
Continue to use our platform and the opportunity to shout out a very special member of the basketball community. Brittney Griner's birthday is today. She's 32 years old. We want to continue to let her name be known, and we pray that it's been 243 days since she's been wrongfully incarcerated in Russia. We hope that she comes home soon and everybody's doing their part to get her home.
Yeah, it was a great moment last night. They were being presented their championship rings. Of course, they took it last year, getting ready to start the new season as the NBA kicked off last night. And I really love how they took time out to remember her in the midst of all of this celebration, in the midst of another banner, and how excited folks are to take time out in that moment because they're such a high-profile team to remind us that this young lady is still locked up and she needs to be back home.
To speak her name, Brittney Griner will continue to speak her name until Brittney is returned home. Now, who counts as black? The explosive question that has found its way before the U.S. Supreme Court again has led to a major battle that's playing out over new maps of congressional voting districts created by Republican-led legislatures in Alabama and Louisiana after the 2020 census. Now, according to NPR, since a 2003 ruling by the Supreme Court, that definition of black has included every person who identifies as black on census forms.
Meanwhile, many Republican state officials are calling for narrow definitions of blackness that do not include people who also identify with another minority group. It's crazy for sure.
Crazy, crazy, crazy. And what you're looking at on your screen right now is U.S. Representative Karen Bass, who recently was joined by Vice President Kamala Harris for a moderated discussion with Celinda Vasquez of Planned Parenthood of L.A. about the fight for reproductive rights, the fears felt by women across the United States, and the country's place on the international stage as a moral leader. An audience of at least 200 people greeted the women, once pitted against each other as possible vice presidential candidates, with a standing ovation at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center in LA. We love to see it.
Yeah, so about 71% of registered voters believe the midterm elections will have a significant impact on the country's future, according to a new Associated Press NORC poll. According to The Hill, most registered voters suggested they also consider voting in the upcoming term elections important, with 84% characterizing their vote as extremely or very important. Just 3% said voting in November is not at all or not very important, with inflation and abortion consistently polling as prominent issues in this year's campaign. Voters see the outcome of the midterm elections as impacting both the economy and abortion policy.
And Georgia voters turned out for the first day of early voting in record numbers, with ballots cast already exceeding 1 day early voting results, right? And so, according to the Georgia Secretary of State's office, over 131,000 ballots were cast in person in comparison to 2018 midterm elections, where just under 71,000 ballots were cast in person on the first day of early voting. Additionally, almost 12,000 absentee ballots have been submitted so far this year, bringing the total number to, get this, just over 100 143,000 as of Monday. So early voting in Georgia will continue through November 4th. If these first few days are any indication, there's a lot of voter enthusiasm in Georgia.
Indeed, a lot. All right, body cam footage recorded by local police captured the confusion and outrage of Hillsborough County residents who found themselves in handcuffs for casting a ballot following investigations by Governor Ron DeSantis' new Office of Election Crimes and Security. The August 18th arrests, conducted hours before DeSantis called a news conference to tout his crackdown on alleged voter fraud, were carried out by state police officers accompanied by local law enforcement. The never-before-seen footage obtained by the Times-Herald offers a personal glimpse of the effects of DeSantis' efforts to root out perceived voter fraud. Of the 19 people arrested, 12 are registered as Democrats, and at least 13 are Black.
Now joining us is strategist, organizer, and advocate Maya Brown. She is right there on the ground in Florida, and she's here to give us her fresh take on all that's happening there. Last night there was a huge Senate debate between Val Demings and Senator Marco Rubio, and we've got to welcome you to Fox Soul's Black Report. We've got to ask you about Val Demings' path to victory. You know, it's not so long ago where folks sort of, wrote off Val Demings and thought that, this was a valiant effort, but likely to be an unfruitful effort for Democrats in the Sunshine State. Tell us, does Val Demings have a path to victory on Election Day?
Well, Dr. Corte, thank you so much for having me on. It is such a pleasure to be here and talk about this historic campaign that Val Demings is mounting up against Senator Marco Rubio. I live in Tampa Bay. I'm born and raised in Central Florida, and think that Val Demings, and have worked in this process for almost 10 years, think that she has had a campaign that has talked about the issues, that provides a vision that brings in all Floridians, that Marco Rubio has continued to abdicate in his role as a United States Senator. And so to your point, I think that, Florida has been one of those contested battleground states for many, many years. And I think that this is another chance for us to win back and flip this seat blue and make a historic election by electing Val Demings as our junior senator from the state of Florida.
And part of what makes it such a historic election is a lot of folks didn't really see this contest shaping up the way that it has. Marco Rubio was thought to, be coasting to election victory. But after yesterday's debate, it really signals that he's running scared a little bit. And so for our viewers that are just tuning in, that may be, infrequent voters, really dial us into the political biographies of Rubio versus Demings. Who are they? What is the contrast that was on full display in yesterday's Senate debate?
Well, I think that folks who are just now paying attention to this race, especially if you have a ballot in front of you, Marco Rubio has served in elected office for almost 24 years. He has served in the state house. He went on to run and serve in federal office. And his track record has demonstrated that this service that has only been about himself and the special interests that continue to bankroll his campaign. I think that the Congresswoman did a great job of uplifting that and amplifying that he has a vision for Florida that only pads his own pockets, right? Floridians have been dealing with a property insurance crisis because of the dear election of Republicans in this state. And the only reason that Rubio seemed to care about it during the debate last night is because his property insurance was going to go up as well. That is not a vision for all Floridians, especially those who are dealing with pocketbook issues, who are concerned about how they're going to pay their rent and pay their mortgages. And Val Demings, I believe, is one that's going to bring in all the folks from all walks of life across this very diverse state. She has a vision that talks about making sure that no matter who you are, you're going to have access to make sure that you can make your own health care decisions, that the pain that we're feeling at the gas pump, there's a plan for that. And I think that's what is very special about this particular race, not just because of the historic nature of electing a statewide Black woman, but also the fact that she's going to bring everybody with her to D.C. from Florida.
So Maya, we know that there are a number of folks that are going to be a part of the margin of victory in this election in Florida. We know that black women, that black voters are sort of chief among them. Talk to me a little bit about, early voting's around the corner. Clearly Val Demings, had specific marks that she wanted to hit. There were certain folks that were watching that she wanted to get the attention of, a lot of them being black voters. How are black voters responding to Val Demings, and how are things looking in terms of them being a decisive part of her margin of victory on Election Day?
Yeah, I think last night Val Demings came across as a very, very strong and knowledgeable candidate for this office, which was really, really great. She held Marco Rubio accountable. One of the things, I think one of the main ziggers that continued to stay with me is that she, said that she didn't know when he began to lie to win. And I think that's something that's really, really important, right? Like, it doesn't matter that they're outspending Democrats, but the message that they being Marco Rubio, continues to push is one that's dishonest. And I believe that it's super important that Val Demings strikes this balance of holding him accountable, calling him out when he's not being truthful to the voters about his record, but also making sure that she's talking about what she's going to do in this office. And to your point, I think she was able to show up in the debate and bring folks in and have those zinger moments that folks could remember and make sure that, that they know that they can count on her as a strong person. What I also think, though, for Black women particularly, like, this is a turnout game. And so I believe that on the ground, she's been going to all of the events. She's been across the state, ripping and running to make sure that folks know about her, know her name, and again, what she's going to do for the people of Florida. And there's an energy around her when you're in the room. She's a person that inspires young folks. She inspires those who are also grandmothers, right, in the state of Florida and have had the same upbringing of humble beginnings as her. And also, she's doing a really great job of communicating to persuadable voters, right? With the overturn of Roe, there's an opportunity to talk to Republican women and also talk to Hispanic voters. And I believe that her campaign has done a great job of balancing all of those intersections and having a message that resonates with all of us. So yes, it's going to be a balance of a turnout game, and that's why we need infrequent voters to cast their ballots, either if they have one in their hands, like I do, to return that, or go ahead and vote early on Monday. And
speaking of infrequent voters, we know that there are a number of former felons that thought they had their voting rights restored, and we're seeing Governor DeSantis sort of sick his sort of voter patrol gang on folks. There were a number of black folks that were arrested for voter fraud, which they claim they were not trying to commit. They were just voting as they thought they could. A lot of confusion here. There seems to be a bureaucratic error afoot that's being politicized. Talk to us about how the Demmings campaign thinks that this recent issue will play as we get closer to early voting and, of course, on Election Day.
Well, just a couple steps back, I believe that the passage of this law as an implementation bill to the passage of Amendment 4 certainly was something that we see as a voter suppression tactic. And when that came up in the debate last night, it was very clear that Marco Rubio was not interested in having the conversation about voter suppression in the state of Florida and tried to camouflage it as making sure that it is voter protection, continuing to participate and support DeSantis in this farce of fraudulent elections in the state of Florida, which we have proven that we have had the most secure and safe elections here. And so I think it was important that Val Demings stayed on him about that she talked about the work that she's done with Congressman Lewis, and for Black voters who are trying to make a decision here on who they're going to cast their ballot for, especially when it comes to protecting a democracy that is under attack by federal folks, and also for folks in the state of Florida, Republicans who continue to try to take away our voting rights. We need to have somebody in the U.S. Senate who is going to do all they can to protect that at the federal level. And I think that as we go into early voting, as DeSantis and Republican leadership in the state have tried to roll back opportunities for souls to the polls and all those things, we push, especially on a grassroots level, to ensure equitable access to the ballot box. Val Demings is sure going to make a push to make sure that her base turns out, and that even with the hurricane, right? Hurricane Ian had an impact here. What does that look like for disenfranchised communities to make sure that their voices are heard on November 8th?
Well, we're going to keep our eye on this race and more. Maya, thank you so much for joining us here on Fox Soul's Black Report. Come back again soon.
Thank you for having me.
I think Maya is spot on when it comes to Val Demings and just her character and her personality. She attended our boule in her backyard in Orlando, and she just lit up the room. And she's a member of the Divine Nine, not my particular sorority, but we just embraced her and loved what she had to say. And I mean, she's just very dynamic, well-spoken, very articulate, and she is on fire for her constituents and beyond. And I'm hoping for the best. I mean, she really, really cares, and it was quite evident in that room. She just lit us on fire, and we stayed on fire the whole afternoon, the whole evening, really.
Yeah. Well, she definitely has that fire in the belly, and we saw that on full display during the Senate debate between her and Marco Rubio. It's really fascinating to me that, Val Demings has been able to sort of thread that needle. Remember, she's a former police chief for the city of Orlando. Right. She was an impeachment manager, in the impeachment of Donald Trump. And so, she's really been able to own her expertise in law and order, and really attract black voters and not repel them with that sort of identity. And so we'll continue to keep our eye on that race.
It's going to be another race to watch for sure. After the break, we'll discuss international headlines, the latest in Haiti relief, Toronto's latest trend in cannabis. You want to come back for this one and more. Stay tuned. Fox Soul's Black Report. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Here's what's happening around the globe. The United States and Canada have reportedly sent armored vehicles to Haiti after its government asked for foreign assistance in defending against gangs threatening to overthrow current Prime Minister Ariel Henry. After a crippling earthquake and the assassination of the former president, Haiti has been subject to the growing presence of a street gang that has reportedly seized territory in the country, now blocking off fuel and water supplies until their demand that Henry resign as prime minister, until that demand is met.
Well, I'm glad that we're sending help, along with Canada, where France is, but I'm glad we're sending help. And I like the fact that we're sending help.
Yeah, I mean,
finally, these gangs are something else.
Yeah, I mean, this is just another example. I mean, a lot of folks were wondering, well, why were Haitian migrants on the southern border of the United States, right? And part of it is that they were fleeing the, political unrest, the social unrest, the destabilized state of Haiti, and they were seeking asylum here, right? And so, we see some of the governors of border states that are sending migrants, to other states, really playing politics, really using them as pawns. But, in this case, we know that there are folks that are fleeing Haiti for good reason. And so, that's the least we can do is send armored vehicles to Haiti.
Right, and they're usually sent back or not treated with the type of regard or respect that others may be treated with as they enter into the city. So when I say that I'm glad they're sending help, it's time that we do something like we do things, for other, folks who are in duress in their particular countries as well. We keep our eye on that. So just in time for Halloween, Toronto Uber Eats is now providing adult treats. Uber just announced that it will deliver cannabis, y'all know what it is, to residents in the Toronto area. The food service food service company said it has partnered with Leafly, an online marijuana marketplace, to deliver from 3 local cannabis retailers in that area. Now, the new initiative comes as the Ontario Cannabis Store detailed that the number of cannabis stores has risen. So the more the merrier, I guess.
Wow, I guess Uber's getting in the gummy ministry. It's the Uber
and,
gummy ministry.
And the leafy ministry, you never really know. I mean, it comes in all kinds of ministries, liquid, leafy, gummy,
Let me tell you,
chocolate.
the pandemic just totally turned everything upside down.
Well, for medical reasons and and relief, sometimes people need what they need.
Yeah. Well, mark your calendar. A new documentary on the life of civil rights pioneer Rosa Parks premieres this week on Peacock. That's right. The documentary entitled The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks runs for 96 minutes, telling the history of Parks by making use of interviews with experts, relatives, friends, and community members. Now, the documentary lets us hear Rosa Parks' voice, isn't that cool, in both audio and visual recordings, while relying on actor Lisa Gay Hamilton to narrate her letters and other personal writings.
That is amazing. What an incredible woman. So I have a personal story. A good friend of mine from the neighborhood, his name is Kevin Gilmore. Unfortunately, we all went off to college, and he was caught up in violence that took his life down in Tuskegee. Came back to Detroit. Everybody gathered at the family home. We're sitting there on the couch, and this image comes floating down the steps. And I'm looking, I was like, that looks like Rosa Parks. They were like, that is Rosa Parks. She was related to Kevin's family.
Oh, wow.
And just beautiful and just very small in stature and graceful. And it just blows your mind how on that day she told them, no, I'm not getting up, because she's so sweet and just beautiful. And so I'm glad I got a chance to take it from the history books and the documentaries and really have a personal moment with Rosa Parks.
I mean, that's really an incredible story that not many of us have. And how cool is it that we get to actually humanize our icons, our pioneers, right? Our trailblazers. So often when we read about folks like Mrs. Rosa Parks and others, we don't really see them in their three-dimensional self. And so, I love documentaries. I know you love documentaries. And so I'm so glad that folks until the end of time get to experience the voice of Rosa Parks in this way. It's just really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, 2 New York black church pastors have sued in federal court to block enforcement of New York's ban on the carrying of firearms inside houses of worship, according to several news sources. They are citing the need to defend themselves and their congregations against the possibility of attacks like the 2015 mass shooting at Mother Emanuel AME. That was in Charleston, South Carolina, that killed 9 people.
Yeah, that's right. It was terrible. The Reverend Jimmy Hardaway Jr. of Trinity Baptist Church in Niagara Falls and Bishop Larry A. Boyd of Open Praise Full Gospel Baptist Church in Buffalo said that the state's prohibition against carrying a concealed gun in church violated their Second Amendment right to bear arms. You agree? I think this is an interesting argument. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes. I know there are a number of folks in the streets that have said, you know what, with Republicans being so intransigent, Republicans, being so obstructive in terms of passing meaningful gun reform, right? What if we just, put a call out, to black folks to, go get your gun licenses and get armed. What difference would that make in the debate? And so we'll see. This is a very interesting position for faith leaders among anybody to take. And so we'll be watching what's happening in New York, which as a state has some of the more stricter gun laws in the country. Yeah, and speaking of New York, let's go upstate. 5 months after the deadly mass shooting that claimed the lives of 10 black people and injured 3 others at a Buffalo, New York grocery store, the New York Attorney General's office released a report calling on the state legislature to pass new laws to stop the live streaming of homicides. The 49-page report alleges that several online platforms played roles in radicalizing the alleged gunman, 19-year-old Peyton Gendron, who is facing a 27-count indictment, including 10 counts of hate crimes resulting in death and 3 counts of hate crimes involving an attempt to kill. He has been held without bail since his first arrest after the May 14th shooting. And we now welcome to the show Mayor Brown right now.
Good to be with you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown of Buffalo. Well, first things first, we want to ask you, how is the community of Buffalo healing? And how has Attorney General James's damning report about the role of online platforms, the role that those platforms play in radicalizing the Buffalo mass shooting suspect, how has that affected the healing process?
The community continues to heal. People in Buffalo came together in amazing ways. lifting each other up, supporting the families of victims, supporting the survivors and their families, and really pouring resources and love and support into that area of the city. Attorney General Letitia James's report with Governor Kathy Hochul that talks about the role of online platforms in the shooting that occurred in Buffalo has been well received. And what we are seeing is that a growing number of violent attacks, like what we saw in Buffalo on May 14th, start with hate speech online. And many people here in Buffalo, in New York State, and around the country believe more must be done to rein in hate speech and radicalization of people on the internet. And I think this report from Attorney General Letitia James and Governor Kathy Hochul is a real start in the right direction.
Speaking of hate speech online, do you think Americans are underestimating the power of online platforms to spread misinformation and to promote white supremacy ideology?
I think we are underestimating that as a nation. We are seeing more and more people becoming radicalized on social media, becoming radicalized on the internet. And the findings in this report showed that fringe platforms do fuel radicalization, that live streaming has become a tool for mass shooters, and that mainstream platforms need to have policies that are consistent and clear, and that online platforms really lack monitoring and lack accountability. And what can happen in social media is really very dangerous in the way that people are becoming radicalized.
Yeah, Mayor, the report examined several online platforms used by the accused. Additionally, officials also examined social media platforms that display graphic content of the mass shooting for parts of the shooter's writings, including Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Rumble. What more do you want online platforms to do to keep the people of Buffalo safe from this kind of tragedy?
I think there should be liability for the creation and distribution of videos of homicides online. That absolutely should not be allowed. That's one of the recommendations in the report from the Attorney General and the Governor. There should be restrictions to live streaming, particularly live streaming violent events. The mass shooting in Buffalo was live streamed by this white supremacist. That was horrible. People were able to see that attack, that act of domestic terrorism almost in real time. And it is important that there be transparency to strengthen the ability to moderate hate speech online. There's not enough transparency now, and that has to be part of the equation as well.
Mayor Brown, I want to unpack that a little bit, especially for our viewers. I know that there are a number of proposals that have been floating around Capitol Hill around reforms to Section 230. I know Congresswoman Yvette Clarke of New York has a proposal that has some broad support in the House of Representatives. I know that there are folks in the Senate that also have their proposals as well. Is that something that you think can get done with the current Congress? I mean, between now and the end of the year, do you think that there is enough energy and enough momentum to actually do something under federal law to address this?
I hope something can be done. I know that we recently saw the passage of the Safer Communities Act of the Biden administration, working with Congress, the first major gun reform in this country in almost 30 years. This question is one that speaks to the importance of people getting out and voting. So it would be good to see something happen in this Congress, but if not, definitely in the next Congress. But that can't happen if people don't see the critical importance of coming out and voting. Let's just take what happened in Buffalo on May 14th. 10 people, innocent lives snuffed out, 3 others wounded. But since that horrible attack in our community, more than 288 other mass shootings in this country. This is a crisis, and it's got to be addressed.
Yeah, it's an epidemic for sure.
Absolutely. Well, our thanks to Mayor Byron Brown of Buffalo, and our thoughts are with the people of Buffalo as they continue to heal.
Yeah, beautiful city. We love the boardwalk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, coming up, we highlight some progressive moves Black faith leaders are making. That's next on Fox Soul's Black Report. All right, soulmates, we are back. I know we're not back just yet to the weekend, and I'm going here somewhere with this. You know, we talk about Sunday and going to church, Black church in particular. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening.
That's right.
In the Black church.
Even if you're a bedside Baptist.
Yeah. Well, a lot of us became bedside Baptists during the pandemic.
We did.
Matter of fact, I kind of preferred online service, to tell you the truth.
There's still a number of people, my mom included, that still prefers the online service as folks are sort of weaning or making their way back to the pews. Yeah,
a lot of those services, some of those church really tapped in and did very well with how they brought the word.
Yeah, well, speaking of the pews, there's an organization called Pride in the Pews. In fact, they're a grassroots nationwide nonprofit that develops, equips, and organizes emerging Black LGBTQ leaders of faith, and they're set to honor faith leaders that are advancing inclusion within the faith community.
The event will bring together faith leaders, activists, academics, and LGBTQ plus their allies. Leading figures such as Reverend Dr. Otis Moss, Illinois State Rep. Lamont J. Robinson, and Reverend Don Abram will pay homage to the honorees and inspire a new generation of faith-based activists committed to LGBTQ and equality.
I know a number of those folks that are paying homage, and honorees include Reverend Dr. Jeremiah A. Wright Jr. That sounds like a familiar name, right?
Trinity, Chicago.
Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. and Bishop Yvette Flunder from the Bay Area. She's the pastor over at City of Refuge. We love Bishop Flunder. This is really an excellent step in the right direction. I think for so long we've seen, Black LGBTQ people, feeling at arm's length from leaders of the church.
Not welcomed.
Right? Not free to be our full, authentic selves. Okay to be in the music ministry as long as you aren't looking for any affirmation in terms of the fullness of who you are as an LGBTQ person. And so, I don't know. I mean, I think there's still pockets in communities across the country that are still not welcoming of LGBTQ people, hence the anti-LGBTQ sentiment that we see sweeping through the country.
That always confused me, how it'd be okay for them, if you will, to lead the choir, write the songs, be the musicians, even take care of the first lady's hair and makeup, but really not be fully welcomed and embraced in the whole, church. And I really found that a bit interesting. I come from the Episcopalian walk of faith, and you can be a woman, you can be married to who you want to be married to, you might even go take a sip after Mass. So a very different mindset here. And I belong to the gospel choirs in college, and I've been to the different faith walks of the different churches, and I've often got a bit confused why it's okay in some areas, or it's hush hush, or it's the elephant in the room, and then in some areas it's a huge problem when they walk in and want to sit down in your pew. I never got that.
Well, homophobia is real. And I always like to say, I don't think that any one community has a monopoly on homophobia. We see it rear its ugly head in lots of communities. And sometimes we see it rear its ugly head in our communities and Black communities across the country. But I think things are trending in a better direction because of organizations like Pride in the Pews and so many legacy organizations that are doing more intersectional work, more intersectional organizing work, with LGBTQ leaders. I think we're starting to turn the corner on LGBTQ bias, right? And so, the last NAACP convention I went to, there were sessions, that appealed to LGBTQ folks and allies. We're seeing a number of other legacy civil rights organizations doing the same. We just saw Reverend Al Sharpton, out there at an event really calling attention to Brittney Griner, and bringing Brittney Griner home, somebody who is, a proud Black lesbian, right? Yeah. And so, I think we're seeing a generational shift in terms of who's invited to the pews. And it's good to see folks sort of walking the walk and being, more embracing, of all of us, and not just, some of us that are their friends in private, but not welcomed in public.
It definitely appears as though the corner is being turned. There's still more of a tilt there to be done. I'm sort of kind of a come as you are. I am a come as you are person, and I'm not going to get into the judgment. If it's about worshiping, if it's about tapping into your personal relationship and you choose to do it in the house of the Lord, then, come as you are. And I really don't get into the judgment. I leave that up to that higher power.
Well, Well, in my view, there is no judgment to be had, because.
Well, I'm speaking of what people, usually put out there or how they assess. Who should and who should not, what you should or should not be.
I think LGBTQ people are really sort of sick and tired of waiting for an invitation, right? And folks if we're going to be unapologetically Black, in my view, that's inclusive of being an unapologetic Black woman or an unapologetic Black LGBTQ person, right? If we're really rooting for everybody Black, as Issa Rae says, right, then everybody's got to mean everybody. And I think, part of what we've seen with a lot of faith-based organizations in our community, for example, is that they're not really rooting for everybody Black. They're rooting for folks that are Black and like them. And so because of organizations like Pride in the Pews and others, I think we're starting to see us sort of turn the corner towards that beloved community that Dr. Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King fought so hard for.
Okay. Sarah Jakes Roberts, the daughter of Bishop T.D. Jakes, recently apologized on behalf of the Black church for perpetuating messages that have harmed people's mental health and self-image. Sarah Jakes Roberts appeared with her husband, Torre, in New York City at the Mental Wealth Expo, an event organized by the Breakfast Club co-host Charlemagne in partnership with Mental Health Alliance and iHeartRadio. First of all, I love Sarah. I think that the mantle that she has been given by her dad is amazing, and this is her time. And she has definitely continued to rise up. And she is on the one of those millennials who's forging ahead, helping the corners to turn. And there's such a realness about her. And her and folks like her who are, who wear the cloth, speaking up to say, hey, Black church, we have not done right and or fair or the best we can by our own members, by our own congregations. And I just love what her and Torre stand for. Of course, the tree that she's fallen from. I love Jakes. And what she now has to say in this newness of how to be, a person with a message and anointed to do such.
I mean, absolutely. I think Sarah Jakes is a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely.
She's a breath of fresh air, and we need to see more Sarah Jakes, step up and step out and speak up, because, our faith is it's something that we take with us everywhere we go, right? And for so long, there are folks that have been made to believe that, you know, we shouldn't go seek therapy, or, you know, we shouldn't, you know, work on our mental health. We should just sort of, you know, pray harder, right? And I think Sarah Jakes is saying that we can do all of the above.
Yeah.
And so,
and her movement is pretty powerful.
Welcome back. So now let's talk about our newest Emmy winner.
We love her.
Drum roll, please.
And you let me listen to a voicemail message she left.
I did.
Come on now.
I did. She
Let me
left.
just touch the hem of your garment.
She left me a very lovely voicemail after we saw each other at the Sydney premiere in LA. She's been a friend for a long time. I am so happy for her. All right, so the anticipation's over. Tell the people who we're talking about.
Actor Shirley Ralph. She just can't stop winning. The avid elementary star received the nation's 4th highest honor, Order of Jamaica, at the King's House in St. Andrew.
That's right, that's right. Shirley Ralph was selected based on her contributions as an actress in the international film industry and for serving as a cultural ambassador for Jamaica. She's only the 10th to receive the honor in entertainment and culture. Look at her.
Amazing.
Doesn't she look beautiful?
Absolutely amazing. She's always been a proud West Indian, a proud Jamaican. Some people might not know that interesting fact about her, but she always talks about her homeland, and I just love the way they rally around and support her. It was just a huge moment, not just for Shirley Ralph and her family and Abbott Elementary cast and crew, but it was a huge moment for her native land, and they are excited about it.
That's right, that's right. I mean, we're all excited about it. I mean, she's just been, I mean, she's just such an icon. I mean, just sort of steady Eddie. Her career, you know, spans decades. I mean, we're looking at one of the original Dream Girls.
And she looks amazing.
She looks pretty dreamy.
Yeah, I went to see Dreamgirls. My daddy took us to Broadway when I was a little kid.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Dreamgirls OG.
That's right. NFL and Thanksgiving go hand in hand in many households, especially here in Detroit, because that Lions game, you'll be here. It's a big to-do every Thanksgiving. Now it's going to be an even bigger deal now that the league wants to take games virtual with a new holiday game to look forward to. The NFL announced a rush to streaming with the first ever Black Friday game to be streamed exclusively on Amazon next year. NFL and Amazon were already partners as they announced a previous exclusive long-term deal for Thursday Night Football. I love it. Last year, the new Black Friday game will air November 24th, 2023, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you have a football freak in your life, a football fanatic in your life, they will not be available now the entire Thanksgiving weekend, because usually you can get them, you know, but now that they're going to have this Black Friday game, it's going to be tough.
I know exactly where a lot of my friends and brothers are going to be on Black Friday, and it ain't going to be in line. It's going to be watching the game.
With a plate or two.
That's right, that's right. Rihanna couldn't be releasing new music sooner. We love Riri. According to reports, Rihanna has recorded not one, but 2 songs that will be included on the upcoming film Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Say it ain't so.
I'm so excited.
Some people don't believe it though, because she hasn't done music or soul, and they're like, "Oh, you just."
I mean, she's
with me.
She's had a lot of time. She's had a lot of time. I mean, she had a baby, becoming a billionaire, but also becoming a mom, right? And so I'm sure there's been plenty of time for reflection and such. You know, the movie is set to be out on November 11th, but Rihanna has remained tight-lipped about it. She's been spotted going in and out of recording studios in recent weeks, and she'll be big headliner at the Super Bowl. She's performing in the Super Bowl halftime in February, and so get ready, because we're about to get our Rihanna fix.
That's
I know a lot of us have been
exciting.
Highly anticipating her return to the stage.
February, that's a great month, by the way.
That's right.
I'll let you know about it. One thing about Jay-Z, he's about his money. Hip-hop. Hip-hop's first billionaire is suing his 11-year partner Bacardi. Hove's company, SC Liquor, is seeking full transparency from Bacardi and wants to know just how much money his Douce cognac rakes in for the brand. Jay-Z just won a ruling against Parlux Fragrances in a 6-year dispute over a breach contract. So Hove is no stranger to litigation and getting his just due. in his strategic partnership. So word out on the street is really it's just sort of kind of a knock, as people may not be drinking Douce as much as they were. And so, maybe it's just him saying, yo, what's going on? What's happening?
It's a pretty bottle.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
That is, it's something else. I mean, I have friends that are really into the Douce.
Do say so myself. Yeah, but word on the street is that's really what may be, putting the fire up under the suit, because, folks, really haven't been getting into Douce too much lately, so we'll have to see about that.
Well, it was nice to see you sort of, starting to demonstrate your rap skills.
I know.
I don't quite think they're LL Cool J level yet, but we're getting there. When we return, LL Cool J's solar-powered monument and precious bronze statues return to the people. The people. The people are going to see it.
That works.
More on Black excellence when we come back. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report.
All right, soulmates, I'm going to put you on the spot, Nicolai. LL Cool J is... Okay, never mind. He's been immortalized. That's what he is, with a statue in his hometown of Queens. I got to get you the lyrics of Rock Bell. Are you nuts? Queens, baby. It's an environmentally conscious feature. This statue, named the GOAT Monument, was designed by artist Sherwin Banfield and depicts the rapper as a teenager in his signature Kango bucket hat, a rope chain, and a boom box. So here's this feature here, the statue, the feature. The stereo uses solar power to actually play LL's music, like Rock the Bells, get you the lyrics, and comes after the rapper turned actor's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I mean, I certainly remember my older brother sort of listening to LL Cool J.
What?
Ladies
Love?
Of course.
Cool
I was still a little Tina Lane at the time.
I'm sorry, I
That's
forgot.
Right. That's right. Museums in the United States have made the move to return culturally precious statues stolen in the 19th century back to their rightful owners in Mother Africa. That's right. The Rhode Island School of Design Museum, in particular, returned over 30 bronze sculptures to Nigerian nationals collected during a ceremony at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Last week, after holding these items for more than 70 years for financial and cultural gain, might I add, one major factor in the worldwide move is pressure from African nations and scholars on the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, otherwise known as UNESCO, for repatriation for the years. And so we know that museums in the United States have made the move to return culturally precious statues stolen in the 19th century back to their rightful owners in Africa. This is an incredible story coming out of really a broader movement. This is a broader movement of folks. I mean, we certainly saw examples of this in
the Queen's passing?
Not just the Queen's passing, but we saw examples of this in Black Panther.
Oh.
Because, remember Killmonger, found some artifacts in that museum, and that was just sort of a part of the storyline. And so this wasn't just sort of make-believe. This is a real thing, and hopefully there are more museums across the country and around the world that join this movement to return these artifacts to their rightful owners, in this case, Mother Africa.
And maybe England should take some notes here. I know with the passing of the Queen, which is where I was going, there was a lot of conversation, especially from the African nations, saying, hey, give us our jewels back as well, because they were on display as they continued with her burial. And so they should take notes, not only artifacts, but we all know, or should know, that Africa has been and continues to be pillaged, if you will, and I think they have a lot to give back to Africa.
And this is a part of what what reparations look like, right? Repair. The root word of reparations is repair.
Sure.
Right, and where there is injury, where there has been violence committed, where there has been theft, there's an opportunity to do right by folks. And so hopefully the museums across the country continue to do what they're doing in Rhode Island and do right by us.
Absolutely. All right, Hurricane Ian brought a family closer than ever. Delana Horsford and her 9-month-old pregnant sister were hunkering down together to weather the storm. Much to their surprise, the baby decided to steal the thunder and join them. Delana is a doctor, but she specializes in family medicine. She's delivered babies before, but never outside a hospital. But with the storm raging outside, Delana knew what she had to do to go to work.
It was kind of interesting going between I am her sister and in the moment I'm kind of her doctor role. And in all honesty, to kind of get my mind right, I put on my scrubs.
Honestly, her calmness kind of helped me calm down when I got to the point of just, of course, being worked up and like, okay, this is really happening.
These are absolutely yummy looking. Of course, it wasn't the birth that anybody planned for, but everybody gratefully is doing fine. The new bundle of joy's name is Justice, and she's making a splash with the rest of her family.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
amazing.
It takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
That's right. And there's no secret that style influences the culture and grooming. All of that plays a huge role in self-expression, and that's why it's so exciting that the world's first tech-enabled barbershop is founded by, that's right, you guessed it, a black man. Darren Tankerang developed the idea of bringing quality barbers to your home, office, or even gym, increasing the customer's value and the barber's wallet for an enhanced experience all the way around. In order to scale to meet demand, the founding team made the move to franchise based on McDonald's business model. The aim is to service 2,500 vans across Europe and the U.S. Tankerang and team have raised $1.1 million in order to scale. Trim It will charge barbers £335 per month and 0 to 9% commission on sales in exchange for barbers to get a brand of new, fully knitted out mobile barbershops, and after 5 years, a brand new upgrade.
Oh, so there's something to that, right?
That's right. Thank you all for joining us. Until next time, I'm Nicordelai Corte.
And I'm Courtney Hicks.